Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and in this video, we are going to be discussing the Retribution Paladin tier set bonus for Season 1 in Midnight, and this thing's going to need a little bit of work. This is the first thing I tested because it would, well, first of all, be one of the quickest things to test, and when I was looking at it, I had forgotten what it was, and this thing is incredibly, it's going to need something. It's incredibly weak, I would say, and we'll go over that, but first, let's remind ourselves what this tier set currently is. Now maybe this is a placeholder. I can't remember if this was the one that was data mined, but this is really not great. Expurg deals 20% increased damage, which on its own, is kind of weak, but it's like, okay, well maybe the force that makes it much stronger. But instead its final verdict casts or places expurgation at 50% effectiveness, and Divine Storm places it at 25% effectiveness. Now that will net you, the Divine Storm one, that why it's 25 is that will net you more damage because you're always casting Divine Storm in Mythic Plus basically, or in AoE situations, and so you'll constantly have expurg up, whereas sometimes it could occasionally fall off in Mythic Plus, not often, but it could. And basically, all that's what the force set does is it just keeps expurg on your target, so you don't have any downtime, but it doesn't actually increase the damage. It's just you're playing with 100% uptime, and of course some added damage because the way expurg works now, the new damage gets added to whatever's remaining, and it keeps ticking or whatever, right? So it also maybe could be working improperly. That's also a thing that could be. It is the beta after all, so maybe something's not working properly. But I thought it was worth talking about because, first of all, it's not a super interesting tier set. It is literally a dot that our Blade of Justice puts on, and it doesn't do a ton of damage. Now, there's been iterations of Expurgation that does a ton of damage. That is not currently the case. The way the damage meter works, it's not up all the time. So I can't look at my... Once it went away, I can't look at the damage meter to show you guys. I might actually have, like here, I think I have a little screenshot of it here though. So expurg is right here if you can see it. I did take a screenshot of this for the numbers. This was with the tier set on. It's way down there. It's Templar Slash, Hammer of Wrath, which I barely casted, Truce Wake. Like it's towards the bottom. There's like 8 things ahead of it, and that's with the tier set on. Okay, so now take my numbers, not that number, because that number was literally me DPSing and it's a picture of it, but take this number with a grain of salt, because like I always say on the beta when I'm testing anything or PTR or whatever, right, is I'm one person. Results could vary by 1% or 2, or if it's a huge outlier by like 5% or something, right? Like my numbers could be a little bit off. I'm not saying they're perfect, but this number is so low that it's not going to matter too much. Is if this is working as intended, it's going to be really, really low. And so essentially, without the tier set and then the tier set on, the expurg it only increased my total damage by about 3%, meaning that the 2 set plus the 4 set were only doing 3% damage, right? Now sometimes even a 4 set alone can do 10% damage, right? So a 2% a 2 set and a 4 set might do like 13%, 15%. Some seasons it's crazy and not usually red, but other specs sometimes it does like 20%. Right now this is around 3%. Let's even say I'm wrong and it's 5% or something like that. It's still way lower than normal. Now if that's how every spec is and every class is, then that's one thing. That's a new direction that they're taking, but this obviously is not is not ideal. It's not ideal for us to have this be so low. It's also just not a very fun tier set at all. So it's just your expurgation, right? There's nothing else to it. There's no, it doesn't increase. It's like, oh, also enemies affected by expurgation take more damage from this. It's just expurg damage. And so it's just it's constant uptime with 20% increased damage. And now that did amount to a lot because, granted, I wasn't playing perfectly or anything, but it did do 4 times normal damage for me by having this effect or whatever. Now maybe it'll scale better with more haste and more gear, but you know, we have on decent gear right now with the gear available from the vendors right now. So this gear is going to be pretty close to what we're going to have towards the end of season 1. So yeah, I think this is going to need some more thought, some more work. Either that number is just going to have to go up. Expurgation, you know, does 50% increased damage or something like that, or you know, something along those lines to make it like viable at all. It's very disappointing. Like it's just not, it's not a good tier set, right? I think we can all kind of agree on that just I do more bleed damage essentially on my expurgation. It's like it would be like if Warriors was rend or something like that. It increases the rend damage by 20%, and your Mortal Strike applies rend at 50% effectiveness or something like that, right? Like I don't think Warriors would be super happy with that. Now maybe they would if rend is like super broken right now. I don't know if it is, right? But if it's in the state that expurgation is currently in, then I don't think that that's a very appetizing tier set. So something to keep an eye out on, something to keep a lookout on. This is early beta. This is second week, but first day of having access to the tier set, right? So this is feedback saying, okay, this one looks really weak. You might want to look into it a little bit there, because it does not appear to be something that we really want to be going for when it comes to that. I will share a couple other just quick things as we're going to be doing updates throughout the week and throughout the coming weeks. I did do some dungeons, some Mythic Plus, and Ret was doing very well in there just compared to the other people I was with, at least. Now, was I playing with the best players? Probably not. But I was doing a considerable amount more damage than everybody else. So Ret does seem fairly viable in Mythic Plus and stuff like that. But it's very early. But I wanted to say, you know, it was a positive. This video is kind of a negative on the tier sets, so I want to throw a positive out there that in the Mythic Plus dungeons I was doing very good damage. At least again compared to the players I was playing with. Now maybe they weren't very good, right? So that's completely possible. There's just random players here on the beta, so maybe that was a bigger problem. But it feels good at least, right? So we'll see when it comes to that. Next up, I'm not sure what to test yet. I kind of also did looked at Crusader Strike auto attack, which is what the tuning was this week, versus Templar Strikes. Templar Strikes appears to be just much better at this point in time, but maybe Crusader Strikes will get better with haste and stuff like that throughout an expansion, or when we can, you know, when we're fully gemmed and everything, we can gem haste or something. You know, maybe Crusading Strikes gets better. But I took a quick look at that as well. And as I mentioned in the previous video where I was talking about Crusading Strike auto attack coming back, Templar is bugged. So when you cast your Divine Toll, it procs a Hammer of Light or whatever. So it's really hard to judge Templar. So I'm probably going to be playing Herald mostly until that is fixed, because it's very, very hard to tell what's going on. One more bit of information for this video that was a big takeaway is auto attack damage. So I actually saw this from some other people as well, but auto attack damage is really high. In fact, in single target, auto attack damage is usually like my second or third highest damage, which I hope that's not going to be the case of it. I don't mind that. Like, I don't mind classic WoW and stuff like auto attacks mattering, but it really makes your other abilities seem pointless, doesn't it? If your Hammer of Wrath, your Judgment, your Blade of Justice, your Expurg, everything other than Final Verdict in single target, right, is lower damage than your auto attack, that seems a little weird for me. Now, they did buff auto attack damage by a lot, and maybe it was too much or something like that. And I do have Heart of the Crusader spec'd in for single target because there's nothing really else to put it in. But yeah, so that's where we are with that. I thought that was interesting to see auto attack damage that high. So we'll see if that's intended, if that's where they're going to be going, or if that's not intended. Some things I'll point out that I'll be looking at here, you know, in the next few days. I'll be trying out Crusade versus The execution sentence side, some different talents at the bottom. Basically, the top talents are kind of straightforward for single target, multi-target, but I'll be trying out some different combinations at the bottom, maybe trying with and without Radiant Glory. So there'll be some talent stuff to mess with as well. And then we'll talk more about just other observations that I make while doing the dungeons, doing the delves, etc. So that's it for this one. Mostly about the tier set here. Let me know what you think about the tier set. I like the idea. I'll leave it on this. I like the idea of, since it's our whole Apex talent thing is our Art of War, I like the idea of the tier set is using our Blade of Justice, which puts expurg on, but maybe something else. Maybe you dress it up a different way, right? Or you just have to increase the expurg damage by a lot or something. So we'll see what they go there, or how they choose to tackle that problem here in the future. But I did want to give feedback on it. So that'll be it for this one. As always, I do ask you to please subscribe to the channel. It helps me out a lot. If you are a subscriber, I encourage you to check out the Patreon. And other than that, everybody, have a good one.